Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to the Voices of Healing podcast. I'm your host, Tina Clarke. Today's guest is a good friend of mine, Maher Haggag, and he is connected to Boundless Holidays, and he does wonderful tours all over Europe and Egypt. And we are combining forces and co-hosting a tour to Egypt this fall on September 12th to the 23rd, 2025. And we're going to talk about some of the amazing locations that we're going to visit during this tour. And we're going to focus on the potential healing that you can receive by visiting these sites, and also a lot of the divine feminine and divine masculine energies that are contained within these temples. But Maher, a little bit more about Maher. He is an Egyptologist. He's a native Egyptian. He's a wonderful person. And I welcome Maher to the show.
Hi, everybody. Thank you very much, Tina, for this fantastic introduction. And I really treasure our friendship. And I really, really thank you very much for having me in your show or your podcast.
So we're visiting quite a group of wonderful locations in Egypt this fall. So we are going to the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx and the Isis Temple, which all three we're going to have private visits to. We're also going to visit Sakkara, Luxor, Karnak, Edfu, Kamombo, Dendera, and Abydos temples. We're going to do our best to meet every night and discuss what we experienced at the temples and these locations. That's really important for integrating what happened there. We're going to have a private Nile cruise, and these cruises are amazing. I mean, the food is amazing also. We're going to visit an essential oil palace that has amazing essential oils. We might do some camel rides, and we'll throw in some surprises in there, right, Maher?
Lots of surprises, but just like what you said is right, and there will be more and more. Plus, the cruise on the Nile will be private, and it's engineless. It doesn't have an engine. It's just like one of those ancient styles that have been made to fit touristic needs, and it's made as a floating hotel, and it will be private, so engineless, private. And when we dock every night, we dock anywhere away from any noise pollution and light pollution as well, so to enjoy the actual Nile, the actual Mother Earth, the life of the people, and seeing the whole world. And just like we're part of it as well.
Mm-hmm. Also, a lot of the temples that we're visiting represent different chakras in the body, which is energy centers of the body. So, the Isis temple and the Abu symbol would be the root chakra. And we would work our way up to the Nile to Sakkara, right?
All the way to Sakkara, yes. We're gonna do the Nile to Luxor, and then we'll do Cairo and Giza. We'll do Sakkara and the Giza pyramids as well. Yes, of course.
Yeah. So I visited Egypt for the first time in April 2024. Wow. I have to say, think about what year it is. But it was my first visit. I had always wanted to visit Egypt. It was amazing. And if you are called to visit Egypt, I would answer the call, because I felt like once I met you, Maher, at the Pyramid Conference in the fall of 2023,
yeah,
and I met another person there that we traveled with in my trip in April, and I just felt this pressure. Tina, you need to go. Tina, need to go. Tina. So to answer that pressure, that, these are my spirit guides. Don't worry, it's not a bad thing. But I answered the call and I went, and it happened very quickly.
And I told you that's not going to be the only time. I told you even before you went to Egypt.
Yeah, so if you're a spiritual person, this is more of like a spiritually based tour. Um, I like to visit sites all over the world and connect to the energy of these places because our ancestors built these places on these locations for a reason. And they've left energies and codes there for us to pick up on when we go there. And it might be different for everybody, but if you are an old soul like Mayer and I, and we've done many, many incarnations, many, many incarnations in Egypt, you're probably wanting on a soul level to visit Egypt if you haven't already.
Or if you've been to Egypt, that will be a different experience completely.
Yeah, yeah. So tell us some of your favorite locations and temples and why, and what can we get out of visiting these beautiful locations?
Well, as you mentioned, the pyramids, the Sphinx, between the paws of the Sphinx, which is such a unique experience. It's, you can never have anything similar to being um, things. Plus, being at Isis or going to stand before her greatness. There is no other words. Her greatness, Sekhmet, um, and feel and talk to her and let her guide you. That's another level. Also, going down the Nile is another big thing. Going to Hathor and doing Abu Simbel, seeing Horus and going to the Equality Temple of Komombo, doing the Temple of Man in Luxor Temple. All of these different sites and holy and sacred sites, they've been sacred many millennia, and they have been sacred for even before the time that we can recall. Also, they are there for a reason, and each and every single one of them have got its own, as you mentioned, have got their own chakras, have got their own energy level, and activates some specific parts and some specific chakras of our own body as well.
Yeah, so some of my favorite places in Egypt were some of the temples dedicated to the goddesses, like Dendera and the Isis temple, and seeing the beautiful Sekhmet statue in Karnak, which is in Luxor. And you can feel the beautiful feminine energy in these temples. And, I would say Egypt is very masculine. Would you agree with that, Mayor?
Egypt is masculine and more feminine. I would agree with Egypt. What do you mean, Egypt nowadays, or Egypt as in ancient Egypt and the temples?
Today's Egypt feels very masculine.
Um, let's talk about it. I may agree to some certain points, as we discussed this when I met you in April, that you need to do it in a different way. But no, Egypt has got much feminine feel and feminine energy than, just like I'm talking about contemporary Egypt and ancient Egypt as well. There are a lot more of feminine energy in there.
Yeah, you can definitely feel it, especially in the temples that are dedicated to the goddesses Isis and Hathor, and also Sekhmet's presence too.
Yeah.
being everywhere, I feel like, but very prominent in Karnak.
Exactly. Exactly. And, just like I'll tell you something about the one tiny little thing about the shape of the columns in the Egyptian temples. If the column is more of a square shape that is connected to masculinity, that is reality, that is real life. When it's round, which is eternity, and which is the circle right in there, and that means eternity, and that eternity is the feminine side. So when we look at the column within the same temple, it can go from masculine to feminine and feminine to masculine. That's why you feel the very masculine energy in the temple of Abu Simbel. You remember when we talked about the energy in Abu Simbel, but
Hmm.
we talk about, for example, Hathor. That's really feminine. And Isis, that is another real feminine because of the shape and because of there are the land energy or the earth energy in there as well.
Yeah, actually, it's like a balance between the two because a lot of the temples are square shaped overall, but within them they have circular columns.
Exactly. The masculine shape or the rectangular or the square shape up there on the outer frame of the temple. Yes, exactly. That's masculinity, which is in in our own jargon, I would say it is the chaotic, the world of the chaos is outside the temple. And the masculine shape protects you as you're in. And once you're in, you have to get elevated from one level to the other, from the Sphinx Avenue, because of every temple should have an avenue like the Sphinx Avenue, like the one in Karnak. So all the other temples would have it in a different way. Then you get to the pylon, and the pylon in there, and let's, just like, do you remember the scenes in the walls of the temples as the king is smiting the enemies, and people call it smiting the enemies? Do you recall that?
And Abu Simbel,
A- In Isis temple, in Dendera temple, in all the temples. So there is a scene of a king smiting the enemies. The new ideas and the spiritual ideas there, it's not the enemies, it's not the physical enemies. These ones or these guys are not the physical enemies at all. They are um, the spiritual demons and the badness and the negativity. So you have to drop them off before you get into the temple for purification, which is the first stage of dropping off the negative and start getting open and open up as you go from one level to the other, and it gets in there. And that is another security. And this is why we need the square shape in there in the temple, and that is the masculine side. And then when it takes you down there inside of the temple to the round columns, to the feminine side, that's when you feel the feminine energy and get much more security, and you feel safe while you're there.
Okay. Can you share some stories of, I know you've done a lot of tours and done a lot of spiritual tours in these Egyptian sites of pe- maybe some of your clients, what they experienced in the different temples. Maybe they possibly healed something or realized something in their lives or changed their lives as a result of visiting these places?
Of course, yes, there are loads and loads and loads of different stories, of finding different centers of energy in many different parts, of um, healing that happened. And just like it's, you know uh, as we all know that the energy, everybody feels the energy in a different level, different way, and different places and different times as well. But when they all agree on a place like the Serapeum, for example, which is more sacred than we all know, and when it goes to other parts like uh, inside the pyramid, you know, I've seen things happening. I've seen miracles to happen, physical miracles, and nobody would never imagine that this would happen. I've seen it with my bare eyes that there was a lady. I'm not going to mention names or event or even time. I'm talking about more than 20 years ago. A lady had came to Egypt for a retreat, and we've been pushing her on a push chair for 15 days. And the day that we had our own private tour at the Great Pyramid, uh, some way or another, she got off the wheelchair. She climbed up the pyramid. And for our viewers, the pyramid, you have to be physically fit. You have to bend your body, mostly crouching for about 80 feet up and down. I'm not talking about the subterranean. I'm talking about even the top part of the pyramid. And then there is a physical fitness that is required. And that lady, God bless her, so we're still in touch. She had walked all the way up to the king's chamber, up to the sarcophagus, and got inside the sarcophagus without anybody's assistance, and went back down all the way on her own. And when she came out of the pyramid, she sat down because she was physically tired. She sat down in a wheelchair. And I would never ever believe that this happened unless I've seen it myself. And I've seen it.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
amazing.
the story. Thank you. That's one of the stories. And I've got hundreds of others like this.
Yeah, I have this theory because I've visited some of the pyramids in Mexico, that if you can climb it, because if any kind of issue you may have, back pain, I'll say this happened to me. I had lower back pain. I climbed the Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan. And by the time I climbed back down, the back pain was gone for the rest of the trip. Yeah. So, so there's healing energies by being around these places, going inside the pyramids if you have the opportunity, which we're going to have a private time in the Great Pyramid on this tour.
2 hours.
2 hours inside the Great Pyramid. So we're
One,
going to be able to go down into the subterranean chamber and up to the Queen's chamber and the King's chamber.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And you're soaking in those healing energies within the pyramid for 2 hours.
exactly.
And we
And
can
that's
always do like a group meditation or a group chant and in the different rooms. And it is the sound is amazing in there. They're like little sound chambers, right, Mayor?
they are like little sound chambers. Exactly right. Yeah,
Yeah.
and sound and healing windows as well.
So what else can you tell us about why should people go visit Egypt?
Well, on the spiritual level, Egypt is one. It's just like it. People may not be able to get a chance in the coming few years because it's getting more popular than for spiritual healing than ever, and everybody's going there on many different levels. That's number one. Number two, finding yourself, getting united with your own car. Your own car is your own spirit. And people uh, come back and come back to get reincarnated in Egypt, to get reconnected with the guidance. And the guidance in here, in the ancient Egyptian theology, is the Ka, or the stars in the sky, which are the spirits of our own ancestors. And when people come back, they find what they were looking for, and they get their own connections in the right way. And they find it in on many different levels and in many different parts as well. So it's a great place for a retreat, a great place for relaxation as well. So it's not going to be just heavily retreat 24/7. There will be some fun, some relaxations, some enjoyment of as well of the nature, the Nile, the life, and the quality of food.
Yeah, so we are not going to run you ragged on this tour. When you do a spiritual tour, you need downtime, you need time to integrate, to discuss. So we'll do that, and we'll have time to share. I think sharing is really important about what we each experience in these places. And I feel like talking about it, sometimes you realize you have new realizations, aha moments when you share it. So I'm definitely going to emphasize getting together and talking about our different experiences as we visit each of these sacred locations.
And in another way, we can ground on daily basis, plus the real grounding when the whole event is over, but we can do grounding on daily basis as well.
Yeah, so again, the tour is on September 12th to the 23rd on 2025. We are visiting a lot of the sacred locations along the Nile, and it's a package deal, so it includes all hotels, domestic flights, local meals, transportation, entrance fees, and includes expert guides. So if you are interested in signing up, contact Maher at his email, which is mhaggag@boundlessholidays.com. You can also contact me on my website, which is tinakittyclarke.com. And if you have any questions about the tour or the locations or what we will be doing over there. So any last words, Maher?
I love you, love everybody, love you, and oh my God, is that the time? Time passed so quickly. Just like there are loads of other things that we can do, and it would be fun. That's all I can say. It would be fun, and I think as we planned it, it will fit everybody. And even if you're not 100% spiritual, that is good for you as well. So we would be, as we've been discussing that in the early stages.
Great. So thank you, Maher, for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know you're always constantly leading tours. So thank you for taking the time to discuss this. And I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you very, very much. And lots of love to you and everybody. Thank you very much. Thanks. Bye.